Hello everyone, this is Mr. Slimer here. We're going to continue reading the Crimson Grin, the Bloody Painter love story. Before we get started, I want you guys to leave a comment, subscribe, and hit that like button if you guys want more creepypasta fanfictions to be read out there. Until then, let's get started. My eyes were glued to the smiley face that was drawn onto the window. I'm unable to help the shivers of fear that run down my spine. Lightning flashed, causing me to jump and my heart to accelerate. This wasn't good. Quickly, I yanked the black drapes forward, blocking the window. A false sense of safety washed over me as I let out a gasp of air. While that wasn't dreading at all, I walked over to my bed, decided to keep the lamp on for the night. That little false safety was enough to allow me to sleep. At least, I hoped it would. I quickly changed into a black tank top and some shorts, taking off the bandana out of my hair. My eyes scanned the room as thunder roared outside. Goosebumps formed up my arms and legs, as I felt I was being watched, but of course, wouldn't anyone, after all, see that? Surely there is something or anyone in here. Shaking my head, I pulled back the silver sheets from my bed, feeling the crisp cold blankets falling on top of my legs. Unlike other nights, I wasn't going to stick one of my legs out from the comforter. I would suffer the heat later in the night. I finally managed to drift to sleep. I woke up in the morning, previous to my thoughts of yesterday night flooding into my mind. I shook my head. My brown eyes scanned throughout my room, seeing that smiley-faced masked man was anywhere in sight. Of course, it turned out to be nothing. I gushed and humiliated myself up my bed and out of the bed and walked to the bathroom. I took a quick shower and noticed that I need to dye my hair again soon. The roots are starting to fade, and the crimson red color has turned pink, which I despise. Once I'm done, I simply put on a flat-word band tee with ripped jeans. Still, it's a bit chilly outside today, so I decided my leather jacket could be quite useful as well. I shrugged on it as I pulled up my combat boots. I decided to leave my hair down today without my bandana. I didn't want to overuse it. Letting us out a sigh, I picked up my bag, sealing it over my shoulders, checking it quickly to make sure my sketchbook was still safely inside. It would be quite a shame if it got into the wrong hands. Hell, people thought I was crazy enough anyway. That thought alone brought a huge smile to my face. I walked out of the house, noticing my mom was still at work. My dad was snoring in his room, probably going to get a major hangover when he wakes up. That was something I wasn't looking forward to. I stepped out into the humidity-dried world, making my way down the sidewalk as I do every morning. The clouds covered the sky as they did yesterday, but the rain would not begin until later. I would probably have to walk home in it, but it didn't mind so much. Finally, I approached the school. The large gray building was surrounded by fences, the grass, lighting into the bitter cold blue to the green. This hellhole looked like a modern prison, in my opinion. I walked forward, keeping my eyes up as I went. Although I avoided meeting anyone's gaze, I continued forward. I walked to my first class, slipped down into my seat, and pulled up my headphones out and pressed it downward in the world which screams. The day continued as every other, until I walked up to my final class. As usual, I would draw in. Certainly, I sat down, sighing as I saw the other perky teenagers filling the room, sitting down while gossiping to each other. I pull out my sketchbook. I simply flipped through the pages and stopped at a blank one. I pulled out my pencil. The tip was sharp and pointed, just arching me to begin. What should I draw today? A thought slipped through my mind as does the previous night. Just like that, my hand was mine. I turned up the music, blocked everything away as I continued. The shape of the body took form on the page. Long jacket, shaded in a tan lighter than black pants, black shoes. I shaded the head, following by the tones of massive hair. Finally, the details of the mask, those black dark eyes, the crimson grin that was pulled across the bottom half of the mask. I smiled slightly. While staring at this, I was sure this scared the hell out of me, but terrified at the situation was. I couldn't help but find it so interesting. I cocked my head and stared back at the figure on the page. I let out a sigh as I stared out the window. I sat next to him. I opened, and the cool air flooded the room. The wind gashed and blew the leaves on the trees back, signaling to me, and yet another storm was on its way. When my eyes locked onto something in the distance, between the trees, there stood a figure that laid on my sketchbook, the man with the red smile. It dropped around the edge. I looked like blood. I noticed the bright yellow circle on his jacket that laid on his collar. It looked like a pin. I also noticed in closer observation it proved to be a smiley face on it. I also noticed that it looked to be a green notebook or a folder that laid in his hands, but who knows what lies within those pockets on his jacket. Knife, a gun, or any kind of weapon. My thoughts were scrambling as the paper was ripped from my sketchbook. The jerk from yesterday, Brandy grabbing between his fingers. I pulled my headphone out and sighed, trembling from my mouth. Let's see what the freak drew today, he snickered, holding up for everyone to see. The teacher babbled on, not seeming to care. His eyes widened, his mouth scrunched up in disgust. What the hell is this? He demanded, pointing at the picture. Why do you care? I growled, reaching for it back. I'm just trying to figure out what goes through your demented mind, he smirked evilly, holding up his arms out of reach. My demented mind is none of your concern, I spat. You need to get a life, he grumbled, crumpling the paper once more. Jenny snickered next to him, her minions, or manicured false nails, glued from disgust, as she covered her mouth with her hand. To be normal, but soon by her friends, even is impossible. I prefer my own company, I muttered, at the stain in my heart at the sight of yet another crumbled piece of artwork. No wonder you're an outcast, he cheers. Just go kill yourself and do us all a favor. Perhaps you need to take your own advice. I sneered, clenching my fist. I don't need to get another detention again, but I really wanted to punch him in the nose. His eyes narrowed, his mouth set it as a hard line. His hands prickled forward and crumpled into a ball, throwing it out the window. If that was the case, why is it that you're always unwanted one? The outcast, the freak. Don't even bother with her, Brandy, Jenny growled, rolling her eyes. Not even worth your time. Brandy shoved, agreeing with her. I turned and put my headphones back in. Only 10 more minutes until I was out. Just then, I looked back at the window to see the figure was gone. Damn it! Those fuckers distracted me. The rain started to drizzle, and I knew I was going to be drenched, that the drawing would be drenched in soak by the time I got out there to retrieve it. The rain continued to pour its place until the bell. I exited the classroom. I walked down the hall to the door, and the rain was pouring down. Echoing through the building, I walked out to see the downpour. A sour-looking puzzle across my face. I took off into a sprint, racing home. As I became soaked instantly, I had to consider brushing my hair out of my eyes as I stuck onto my face. I kept my bag tightly against me, keeping it closed, refrained from further damage. My sketchbook. I continued to race along the tip at the cab. Finally, I arrived home, bursting through the door. My breath was heavy. My eyes were sloping around to see if anyone was home once more. Not quite the shocker. I sat my back down as I dribbled the water and continued to shake down my eyes again. Quickly I pulled my belongings out of the backpack, laid them on the table so they could dry. I walked to my room and grabbed a change of clothes before getting into my bedroom. I quickly ran out my hair with a towel and pulled it up into a messy ponytail. Then changed clothes, hanging up the soaked t-shirt, jeans in the edge of the shower as the jacket was tossed onto a chair beside my bed. Along with my boots, I rested on the floor. I fell back onto my bed exhausted. Today was just like any other day, except for that figure, the same man staring at me from the window. I paused, my lips walking over to my window. The dark drapes was still covering it before I slowly pulled it back, peeking outside. Nothing was there, just rain and the wind. It took over. I let the drapes swing back into place. Turning back to my bed, that's when I saw something. It was clipped on one of my canvases, a piece of paper that seemed to be crumpled to one point, but seemed to be smooth now. I approached it. My heart stopped within my chest. It was a drawing of the figure, only different. There was a thin sketch of red that was drawn over his smile. Shaking my hand, reaching out, slipping it out from underneath the clip. I looked it over to see there's no note or source of any of the paper, just my drawing with a tangle of colors added to the smile. Nerves swooped into my stomach as I thought about this. The figure that was standing at the window. When I drew this, he picked it up, without my notice. And somehow he managed to slip into my house and post this on my canvas after adding his little details. Was this on purpose? Too scared to living in the daylight out of me or something. All I know that I wasn't even safe within my own home. This person managed to made it clear that he was watching me, and it was easy for him to slip into my house unnoticed.